attempting to achieve communications with the Kennedy Space Center. As we said, President Nixon, like millions of others around the world, spent his time this morning intently watching the blastoff of the Apollo 11 mission and keeping right up to date on the events of the day. The President is going to follow the moon flight periodically throughout the day today. And this late word just in from Jodrell Bank, England, indicates that Russia's mysterious Luna 15 moon spacecraft radioed 2 bursts of signals which ended just before Apollo 11 lifted off to the moon. Russ Ward is standing by and at Cape Kennedy. Let's switch now to Russ Ward. Russ?
This is Russ Ward at the Kennedy Space Center. We have a bit of a communication problem, but we are now picking up word from Houston's Mission Control that the translunar injection has started. There has been ignition of the big third stage booster rocket to take the astronauts out of Earth orbit and start them on their 250,000-mile trip to the moon. Ignition started just minutes ago. All looking good according to Mission Control. That word just in. 26,000 feet per second. That means they're up to about 18,000 miles an hour. The spacecraft now on its way to the moon, all looking good. This TLI burn, as it's called, the translunar injection burn, will last for 5 minutes 47 seconds. A refiring of that third stage engine. The burn, we're just in from Houston. The burn now is a minute old and all still looks good. Again, the refiring of this third stage engine will last for 5 minutes 47 seconds. And this is a refiring that is absolutely critical to a lunar landing, because without this firing, the men would not go to the moon. They would stay in, right now, would stay in an elliptical Earth orbit. They were in an almost circular Earth orbit moments ago before the burn started. So we now have TLI burn that is almost 2 minutes old. We're standing by awaiting. All looking good. Now up to 27,800 feet per second. I am repeating to you the word we're receiving from Houston's Mission Control. All looking good now. Again, this is a very critical phase of the lunar landing mission, because without a good firing, the men thrust is good, everything looking good. Those words from Houston's Mission Control. The spacecraft answers back with a roger. The firing's still going well now. Again, we have 2.5 minutes in. 3 minutes to go, a little more than 3 minutes to go actually. A total refiring of 5 minutes 47 seconds. The spacecraft was in a circular orbit of the Earth at an altitude of approximately 118 statute miles. It is pulling out of that almost circular orbit now, heading toward the moon. Velocity now more than 29,000 feet per second. Once again, the spacecraft will not completely leave the gravitational pull of the Earth. If nothing else happened following a good TLI burn, the spacecraft would go simply into a they are now approaching sunrise over the Pacific Ocean.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. Around 3.5 minutes. You're still looking good. Your predicted cutoff is right on the nominal.
That was the capsule communicator talking to Neil Armstrong saying Apollo 11. Hello? 1,000 feet per second, which will be 24,000.
Altitude 125 nautical miles.
That's
nautical miles. That would make it 144 statute miles. They will be at 177 nautical miles at cutoff, which would make it a little better than 200 statute miles. They actually fly off of the face of the Earth. They are not flying directly off.
Velocity 32,000 feet per second. Altitude 130 miles.
They are flying horizontally to the Pacific at this moment. The velocity will be enough to break the grip of the Earth's gravitational pull. When they leave the grip of the Earth's gravitational pull, they will have their velocity reduced from 24,000 miles per hour to about 2,000 miles per hour.
Velocity is 33,000 feet per second. Altitude 142.5 nautical miles.
That is the voice of Jack Riley. He's located in the Mission Control Center in Houston. Relaying reading.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. You are go at 5 minutes.
Go at 5 minutes. We've got about 40 seconds left to go in the burn. Everything right on
4,000 feet per second now. Altitude 152.
Almost at the speed necessary to get there. They are approaching sunrise at this moment. They should be seeing the sun rise over the Pacific. From this moment on, they will be in sunrise continually until they get into the shadow of the moon when they go in orbit there Saturday.
This should just about cut off.
There it is, right on the money, Russ. So let's check that velocity and everything should be fine.
35,570 feet per second. Altitude 177 nautical miles.
Right on altitude. Velocity is pretty close also. I don't remember exactly what it should be.
We're getting a further word of
Apollo 11, this is Houston. We show cutoff, and we copy the numbers on now 62.
just a moment.
Apollo 11, Houston, do you read?
We should be getting a confirmation. Still waiting here. And this communication between the spacecraft and this. Again, this is one of many moments these flyers are waiting for. Was this determined?
Apollo 11, this is Houston. Do you read over?
Roger, Houston, Apollo 11. We're reading the VI of 35579er. And the EMS was plus 3.3, over.
You're plus 3.3 on the EMS. And we copy the VI.
Let me do some fast checking right here, Russ. I'm 99% sure, as they say, that's right where they wanted it, within just a few feet. They have 4 mid-course corrections planned by using their service propulsion system if they have to, and they can adjust for any slight decrease or increase in speed that they might need, or course correction, so that they arrive at the moon at the precise moment that they desire to.
NBC Radio's coverage of the flight of Apollo 11 will continue after this message. Now this word from the Association of American Railroads.
Class? Today we're going to talk about computers. Now, who knows what a computer does?
I do, Miss Richards.
Yes, Sally?
Computers help do everything.
That's right. As our country grows, computers help build cities, design bridges, help control traffic, and help run railroads.
Yes, America is growing by the new computerized railway. Railroads use computers to help freight trains move things you need and use for the kind of living you like. Food, clothes, automobiles. They get to you at lower cost, saving you money when you buy. Computers, helping railroads meet the growing transportation needs of a constantly growing America. The American Railroad.
Grow by the railway.
Well, Jay Barbary, the flyers are now out of their circular Earth orbit and are heading toward the moon.
They reached a velocity of 3,500 and 500 feet per second, which is around 24,000 miles per hour.
Complaints with any of the three stages on that ride. It was beautiful. Roger, we copy. No transients at staging of any significance. Over. That's right. It was all a good ride.
Roger, all a good ride. On all three stages of the Saturn V rocket. They're pretty close to the money on this trajectory, Russ. It was to have been 35,533 feet per second, which would have been normal. So they're within it a couple of feet.
Again.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. For your information, we expect the maneuver to separation attitude to begin at 3 plus 05 plus 03 and to be completed at plus 09.
About now, they're starting a 16-millimeter camera in the window to get some pictures at probably at...
computer aboard the LIM, or aboard Eagle, will be loaded with the program 12, powered ascent guidance. We'll continue to monitor now at 3 minutes 12 seconds away from ignition as crew of Eagle goes through their pre-launch checklist.
That camera, I would imagine, will not be at 1 frame a second this time. I suppose they'll run it probably at the full rate of 16 or maybe 24 or perhaps even 32 frames to get a good picture of what that liftoff looks like.
And what they're looking for first now is 60,000 feet, if they can make that, and then begin the pitch-over process, and then begin to pick up speed relative to the surface of the moon.
It'll take 7 minutes and 18 seconds for them to make sure that they're in orbit. It's going to be a long 7 minutes because that engine must burn all the way, although a partial burn, a burn of 4 minutes or so, might get them into enough of an altitude that they could be rescued by the command module piloted by Michael Collins.
Oh, Mike up there has a veritable encyclopedia of cases, of possibilities, of semi-orbits, of strange orbits, of sudden engine shutdown, a million things that he can respond to.
Mark, T minus 2 minutes.
Roger, guidance, steering in the ag.
They leave behind them the descent stage of the lunar module, the American flag, the staves holding it extended. They leave behind them more than $1 million worth of extra equipment that they had to jettison for purposes of weight. They leave behind them the footprints that man first set on the moon on July the 20th, 1969 AD. The AD, the only reference in that plaque they left to God, a rather subtle reference that was inserted by the White House on the proposed plaque.
And that plaque is exposed, of course, on the rung of the ladder there. They read it.
1 minute to liftoff. Let's listen as the astronauts go through their final checkoff.
45 seconds.
A quiet pair, each doing his job.
Guidance reports both navigation systems on Eagle are looking good.
50 blanks. Got that acid card?
Ten seconds.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, work stage, engine arm ascent, proceed. Yeah, beautiful. 26, 36 feet per second up. 5 minute pitch over.
They're rising. They're getting off. reading out the rate of ascent in feet per second.
1,000 feet high, 80 feet per second vertical rise.
Almost straight up now during these
Houston,
first
request
stages.
manual start override. Roger. 2,600 feet altitude. Here. No.
Long 7-minute plus burn now that they must achieve.
Eagle Houston, 1 minute, you're looking good.
1 minute, you're looking good. Mission Control tells them.
Keep moving. Every second counts here.
130 feet vertical rise rate. A little bit of slow wallowing back and forth. Not very much thruster activity.
Some slow wallowing back and forth.
Fine.
But the thrusters are not being overused, apparently.
150 up, beautiful.
Very smooth,
9,000.
straight liftoff.
AG degrees within a foot per second.
Looking very, very good according to all the
Eagle Houston,
telemetry.
you're looking good at 2. Ping, zags, and misspin all agree.
2 miles up.
That's 1,000. 170 up, beautiful. 14,000.
Pitching over now to get that velocity.
Again, to ping.
Both the primary guidance, the pings, and the backup guidance, the AGs, agree.
That stand looks like it's holding good, Houston.
The S-band antenna
Sure, it's great.
holding in its proper position.
Aldrin is reading the horizontal velocity first, and then the vertical velocity. It's now 1,424 feet per second vertical velocity, 187 vertical velocity. Eagle Houston, your go at 3 minutes. Everything's looking good.
4 minutes to go.
Roger.
The next minute is critical.
What you need now, of course, are components of forward velocity and vertical velocity. Sailing up, those craters getting smaller back below.
Couple of very cool men.
Right down US-1.
That's the Hypatia Rill. Really, they call it US-1, named after the road that runs in front of Mission Control in Houston, Texas.
Height's now approaching 32,000 feet.
So they got a good look to the south of them. Probably saw Moltke, the crater.
Eagle Houston, 4 minutes. You're going right down the track. Everything's great. Horizontal velocity approaching 2,500 feet per second. Got Sabine off to our right now.
Got Sabine
Roger.
in view.
Some 120 miles to go until insertion.
We'll be interested in the heart rates during this liftoff, the one thing that had to work absolutely. And the rate of ascent is being kept track of, as well as the downrange velocity, the lateral velocity. They're beginning to pick up more and more of it now, about 2,000 miles an hour.
That's what Mission Control meant by saying right on track. They didn't mean on any...
There it is, right there. Where there's Schmidt. Hey, that's impressive. Looking at it.
Looking at Schmidt Crater now.
Eagle Houston, you're great. 3, looking good. 155. All 3 data sources are agreeing quite closely here. The 3-color plot board on the front of Mission Control here is almost superimposed as each of the 3 colors are scribed on the scribing plot. plotter.
The two onboard computers and mission controls computers agreeing that everything is right on track.
Off to the right.
They're about at the same altitude that they began that powered descent initiation yesterday. They're passing over some rough terrain now, much further to the west of the landing point.
And they're getting into darkness now.
Eagle Houston, you're still looking mighty fine. Good agreement in Delta V to go on both Ike and Ping. Roger.
Delta V is the increased velocity, the increase in velocity that they have to achieve for orbit. From nothing in this case to 3,774 miles an hour.
4,482 feet per second, horizontal velocity. 800 to go.
Aldrin reading out the rates to go.
Dang it, open up the main shut-off. SSC goes, pressure's holding good, cross speed off. 850 to go.
And if you want to hear a happy astronaut, wait till you hear what Michael Collins has to say when they call him.
Stand by on the engine arm. 90, okay, off, 50, shut down.
And they shut her down after 7 minutes and 18 seconds of burn time.
53373, 32.8 feet per second, 60,666. Eagle, roger, we copy, it's great, go. And we got
60,000.
residuals.
Now, the residuals, the difference between the optimum burn and
Eagle Houston, trim
what they really got. And not much to trim out.
Showing a paraloon of 9.1 nautical miles, apoloon 47.2 nautical miles on the pings.
Looks as
All
if
three
they
systems
were,
are go.
looks as if they were just 1.5 feet per second slower than the desired velocity.
Cutoff velocity showing about 55, 37 feet per second, plus or minus a foot or so on each of the three systems.
Well, if that's correct, then it's a couple of miles an hour faster, not slower than they had intended to go.
But that's a big relief to Mike Collins. That means that he'll have to do relatively
Eagle Houston,
little up
trim looks
there.
good.
And the Eagle itself should be able to fly its way back up to the Columbia.
That's good. Okay, that sounds a little on the high side. Okay. Okay, Houston, we show 47.3 by 9.5. Roger, 47.2 by 9.5.
And when they reach that...
9.5. 46.6.
When they reach that stage at 47 nautical miles up, they'll try to even her out and make that a circle and maintain that constant height.
Michael Collins, ahead of them in the command module, Columbia, sent back a message telling...
Eagle Houston, request the fourth stage reset, engine stops reset, low control that, hold and get a chance to...
telling them, I think, what he was getting on their speed from his computer and the radar system aboard the command module, and they thought that his reading was a little bit high as I got that rather garbled transmission. But there's plenty of time now to recompute it. They are in orbit. They're safely off the surface of the moon.
That's the important point. I think let's pause now with relief for 10 seconds and station identification.
This is the CBS Radio Network. You're listening to KTRH and KTRH FM in Houston.
And this is the flight of Apollo 11 Eagle, now airborne, in orbit about the moon, having left that spot on the Sea of Tranquility. No longer is it the call sign Tranquility Base, it's Eagle again.
Roger, Houston. Eagle is back in orbit, having left Tranquility Base and leaving behind the replica from our Apollo 11 patch. We got it, Brett. Here, the whole world is proud of you.
I think that's a fair assessment of the feeling of the whole world.
Leaving behind a replica of their Apollo 11 patch.
Eagle Columbia, I've got 470 now for our dot, and I just broke clock. Could you hold silent for a few seconds there while I require?
And although we're hearing some garbled transmission, they now are in contact, and I suppose in excellent contact with Columbia, with Michael Collins in the command module, who's out ahead of them there as they head for that point. About a little more than half an hour from now, and they'll go round the corner and disappear from our view as they begin the maneuvers that will bring them together later this afternoon.
Well, I'm sure that our compatriots in Houston, Texas must be breathing a sigh of relief at this time. Neil Strasser, what's the atmosphere like down there now?
Reed, I must tell you, at the risk of making it sound like a commercial plug, that just seconds after that ignition, when that first beautiful came over the Apollo line, representatives of Grumman, which built the lunar module here, Glenn Kingsley, and the representative of Rocketdyne that built that asset engine, Jim Pierce, exchanged a very happy handshake.